Hey loves, welcome to another episode of Inspire. Now, our guest didn't just enter the Kenya's manufacturing industry, she helped redefine it. From pioneering flavored tea in Kenya to building one of the country's most recognizable homegrown brands, she has spent over 3 decades leading with resilience, innovation, and fearless ambition. She became the first female chair of both the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and KEPSA, while growing a company that has remained relevant across generations and changing markets. Today, through scale mastery and her book, Brewed to Last, she's helping African entrepreneurs answer one critical question: why do so many businesses start, but so few truly scale? Today, we talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, resilience, motherhood, and what it really takes to build something that lasts. Please welcome entrepreneur, author, founder, and CEO of Melvin Marsh International, Flora Mutahi.
Asante sana, Sean.
Thank you for taking this interview.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Now, just a quick background check. Who was Flora Mutahi 18, 19, 20, and what ambitions did she have?
I was a quiet, introverted, totally unsure of the future. And I remember my career master in school just telling me, you've got to pick a career. You've got to pick a line. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't have the language. There's no cute vocabulary like entrepreneurship. So then I was speaking to my father and he says, listen, you're good in accounts. You know that. Just say accounting to get him off my back.
Okay.
Then I believed the story. So I finished my degree and then I started doing accounting.
So you did a degree in accounting?
I did in finance.
Okay.
Finance and accounting, yes.
Okay.
Then I went and did the professional exams.
Okay.
I started in Strathmore.
Okay.
And then after some time, James McPhee figured me out. He was like, everything was just barely passing, barely. As long as I didn't get a fail.
You were like, I'm okay.
So then at the time I had started working in an audit firm. Because you see now I'm believing this story. Because
that finance is your calling and all.
Yeah. So, but again, very unmotivated. I would be more interested in the business that we go to audit.
Okay.
So when my boss comes, I'm pretending to work. And then I got 55 excuses. Oh, this happened. The computer crashed. I had every story in the book. So one day, after James McPhee fished me out and he said, you're developing a habit called mediocrity and it's going to follow you for the rest of your life. So if you don't believe in what you're doing, don't do it.
Okay.
Wow. And so I was like, really? It was so empowering. So I went home and I wrote a letter. I fired myself.
Oh.
Went to my boss and I gave it to her. And then I told my parents, like, yay. And all hell broke loose.
I can imagine.
All. I was also almost killed. I was trying to get out of the house.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Because 30 years ago, it wasn't cute to
be jobless.
Like my father was in the age where they were finishing school and being pulled into jobs.
Yes.
And they were getting jobs dime a dozen. So the people who now didn't get jobs were more like considered failures. So he's thinking,
because jobs were there. So why don't you have a job?
So why don't you have a job? So he's thinking, my child that
I'm a somesha.
There's no way he didn't take us. So it was a rough time. So, but I fought. I kept to my grounds. Fortunately for me, within about a month, 3 weeks to a month, my mom, serial entrepreneur as well, turned around and said, okay, what do you want? So I said, I want to do business. And she's like, what's that? Which what? And I had no idea. So I must have sounded like this very confused person.
Because you can't just say business, I want to start a
but
business. You need to be sure.
I didn't have the freedom to think it through. Because first I had to fight to be allowed to do it,
Yes.
So then she said, okay, I want an answer. So we just played a duck and dive game for about 3 weeks. Okay. Then one day over the dining table, I saw wet salt, really wet. It wasn't even the salt shaker. Now it was just on a plate. And it had a purple hue because of the iodine.
Oh, yes.
It's like, why don't we have table salt? What's going on? And so they both looked at me and said, do something about that. See, you're the one who's looking for business. And it's like that, Melvin's free-flowing salt was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went to the Kabete campus. We didn't live far from there. I went there. I met a professor. I told him, this is what I want to do. The lecture started again, but he was kind. He was like, have you done food science? Or what was it? Anything to do with foods? I said no. So he trained me for 3 weeks every afternoon. And he just made me to commit.
Okay.
And then it was now, let's get the machinery. And then, slowly I went to market. designing, packaging, and I took it to market. So Chandrana was my first supermarket.
Okay.
Put it on shelf. Did pretty well. It started moving a little bit. And then I decided, hey, this is really, salt is cheap.
So it's like 20 bob. 30
Yeah,
bob.
cheapest commodity. So I was like,
Yes.
oh my God, what am I going to do? So I said, the hotels are the ones who need this more. So I went to a particular hotel and they gave me an order of 100 dozens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which hotel was this?
The Saroba
Okay.
group. So they gave me 100 dozens. So I didn't have money to supply. So I remember trying, because now I had found a small loan that was given collateral free as long as my somebody backed it up. So finally I had twisted my mom to back it up.
But just to hold you right there, let's circle back to even the starting.
Yeah.
Who backed you up in starting? Because there was some financial things that you had to go to, like the designing, you had to pay someone. So what backing did you have in starting?
So first, remember, I've just fired myself
Yes.
at a whim, so I've got no savings. I was in my 20s. So I went and found a fund, Kenya Women Finance Trust, a bank.
Okay.
It was not a bank at the time, I think it was a microfinance.
Okay.
And they had an IFC loan. So if you secure, let's say 200,000, they'll give you 4. So that's what I did.
If you secure 200,000, they'll
give you double.
Oh, wow.
They'll give you double. So half collateral.
Yes.
So after I'm twisting my mother, and now she gets excited. Serial entrepreneur, so she started getting excited. So she went and backed up the loan. And I got my first loan.
Okay.
So that's how I started. But it wasn't enough. But I wouldn't admit. So I just cut it up and I just started paying a little bit here, a little bit here. Design was done by my friend. So slowly, I had a product I could take to market.
Okay.
When I went to pick up my machinery, I just wrote them like 3 checks in 3 months.
Okay.
Needless to say, they all bounced. Not all, most bounced. But I didn't care. I needed to move.
Wow, that is such a risky thing to do. Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't advise it now. It's a criminal charge now.
It is.
Yes. But at the time, it was only 300 bob. So I weighed my options and I said, I've just got to move.
Yes.
And I really thought, it's good to dream, because I really thought I could pay back, be able to buy the machine with salt.
But I mean, you understood the concept of finance and cash flow. So you were like, 3 months,
Yeah,
I'll be able to.
whatever.
Yes.
But of course, that didn't happen because salt being a cheap commodity. And then this hotel told me they're going to pay me 90 days because that's what they do. And I didn't know. So I've delivered and they tell me 90 days. I'm like, I need the money. In fact, I had borrowed that
3
money.
months.
Yeah, I had borrowed that money now. From my friend's mother. Of course, you can't tell an African whom you've borrowed from another,
Wait.
let's go there. So I couldn't tell my mother. Then I went to my friend's mom and I said, I know I borrowed the money for 4 days. I can't pay you back because this has happened. So she just laughed. Said, pay me back when you have it. So then I continued and I realized I need another product. So when I went to this hotel, I decided, let me run them out. So I went there every day thinking I can change their mind. And they said, you're not changing our mind. But then I met somebody there who was telling me, my mother's in tea. She's packaging tea. So I said, why? And, didn't you know there's a monopoly? There's a particular company that was protected for 19 years by government. The monopoly has been lifted. So anybody can pack tea. So she's packing it. She's buying it at this price. So I said, how come she's, you're talking so much? She says, all my friends are in tea. So I said, I want to know about that. And he said, they're all in Mombasa. I said, that's okay, I'll go. Okay. So I went to Mombasa. That was a Thursday. By Monday, I was in Mombasa. And
any idea opportunity, you're like, let's go, let's do.
I'm in trouble. I've got a product that's not going to make me any money.
Yeah, so you got nothing to lose
I've got nothing to lose. I've got everything to prove to the home because they're telling me, this is not how you do it. So I had to move. So I go to Mombasa and I was not even going to listen about the story. I was like, I want to be registered to pack because I've already decided I'm packing. And they're looking at me.
You want to know how it's being done, who is doing it.
I'll figure that out.
Registration. We'll figure out along the way.
So then they insisted on meeting me later, and then they really gave me a long lecture. Don't assume the industry. You have to have a tea master. Yes. You blend. Anyway, they taught me a lot and challenged me a lot. And they just said, how do you think you're going to go up against a monopoly? Yes. And I was like, I don't know. So I thought about it on my way back. And then I came back and I used to like tea. So I took tea and I'd put in ginger. So, but there's no ginger in the house. So I said, okay. So I went back to the shops. I bought ginger. I came home. And as I was making my teas, when I got my aha, I said, you know what? I believe in the road less traveled. If these guys are doing their black tea, why don't I put ginger in the tea? So I went back to my university guy and I said, this is what I want to do. And he said, ginger is wet. So we agreed, okay, let's dry it, mill it, blend it, dry it, and then put it together. So he taught me again now the principles of blending, which I still have till today. So I had a product. So I take it out to market, and Chandrana again puts it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And then I went to the big supermarket those days. I don't know if you were around, called Uchumi. It was a big.
Uchumi was big.
It was the place.
It was the wow.
It was the supermarket.
Wow.
Yes. I think they're the first ones to have formalized supermarkets at that level. So if you're not in Uchumi, you're nowhere. So I went. This guy lectured me like a child. Okay. What are you doing in business? Are you married? No. Oh my goodness, he was like my father. So tail between the legs, and I came home. And then the following morning, it was days of landline. So of course the home was the
the home was the landline.
Number.
Yes, it was everything.
So he said, I want 20 cases.
That's Uchumi.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, okay. And the tangawizi, he said, no, that's the one I want. And the other black one, he said, don't even talk to me about that one. My shelves are full. So I was like, wow.
So you had a unique product that they did not have.
Yes.
Okay.
So then I went to deliver. I still carried the other one, hoping I can change his mind. And he was like, no.
So we were talking about this.
Yes, this is the one we're talking about. So put it on the shelf, and slowly it started moving. You know, I think all the supermarkets asked for it. They had already a couple of supermarkets. Slowly it started moving. But now remember, I'm in a hurry. I'm impatient. What do I do? So I had to create my own demand. Okay. So I started creating my own demand by going into markets.
Okay.
So have you ever been to Kangemi market?
No.
Kangware market?
No.
Githurai market? Yeah.
Wait, so you actually went yourself now
Yes,
to
I got
give
2
them
thermoses and I made the tea.
Wow.
In the morning, and I'd go and sit with those mama mbogas. And we would talk whatever language they feel like talking. And my issue was, I just said, if I make them just buy one, it was 10 shillings, a 50 gram. I said, if I just sell 2 cartons. In fact, I used to say, even if I finish by lunchtime, I can go home. So I just, because 2 cartons was 400 pieces. So every day I went into a market and I sold 400 pieces, this thing will start moving.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And so from there, then they started, so they said, listen, when you're not here, where do we buy it? So I asked them, where do you shop? They showed me the supermarket. So I went to the supermarket. And then I told them, these ladies asking for this. So they said,
so can you stock it?
Can you stock it? So they said, give us a few. And the principle is, don't give a lot. Don't kill them with it. Give a little. Then the next time you come, they say, it ran out very quickly. So you see, you already have the perception that it's moving. So they want more. Then I said, but who is your wholesaler around here? So they give me 3 or 4. Then I go and interview all those 3 or 4. Then I choose the biggest one. And I say, okay, now keep our product.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to create my own demand because I brought in an innovative idea. Actually, we're the ones who brought flavored tea into Kenya. So definitely I had to change people's mind. It took my mom 4 years to stop buying my competition. So she'd buy my competition, then she'd get mine. But you'd still not feel safe just
using yours.
Yes.
I think the psychology around it, I assume.
And you can imagine a 19-year-old monopoly, only brand that you've ever used. So it's building a brand is no small feat. It needs a lot of work. So then I meet they were British, and they were saying, we help SMEs export. So now I'm not even in Kenyan market. Now I start thinking export.
And you're in your 20-something?
Definitely cut before the horse. So they said, how many flavors do you have? And I was so proud. I said, I have tangawizi. And they look at me like, are you okay? Flavors, you need many. Yes. So they said, and this program is closing in, I think it was supposed to be in 2 months, in 8 weeks. And if you don't have more than 4 flavors, you're done. You're not on this program. Yeah. So I quickly had to come out with 4 flavors. So I went into masala.
Came up with 4 flavors.
Yeah. I went masala, vanilla, cinnamon. And then I had my tangawizi.
Oh, wow.
And I went on the program. So we went to the UK. Now, unfortunately, these programs that sometimes I don't know who contracted. They started putting us in front of James Finlay, George Williamson, who already have their own growers here. So it was a bit silly. Yeah. Didn't work. So one particular gentleman, I remember him saying is, we buy and we have our farms in Kenya. Why do you imagine we'd allow value addition here? I was like, wow. So I think towards the end, we just walked through a couple of supermarkets and I came home, tail between the legs. Yeah. So in this process, I needed more money. So I went to my SACCO. I borrowed as much as I could. And then Uchumi themselves called us and they wanted us to do something for them. I think they wanted us to package rice for them. They wanted their own brand.
Okay.
So we said, actually, why not? We're a bit idle. So we went and got some machines, started packing rice for them.
Okay.
So in the midst of that, this is poor negotiation. I keep telling entrepreneurs, and this is why I have such a passion to coach them and mentor them. I was doing it on my money. It was their brand, but I was doing it on my money. So at one point, I just couldn't move. The system was choking. The orders were too big. I had no money. I didn't have it. So I went to a bank and a financial institution. And I met this gentleman and I told him I want money. And he's like, well, let me see your balance sheet. So I showed him my balance sheet. He says, you have no problem of money. No problem of money at all. You're just managing this company very poorly. Whoa. So then he showed me, of course, debt.
Someone who had a finance
knowledge.
degree,
Yes.
you can imagine.
But you get pushed and bullied by being your size, and you're really trying to get the sales. So I was pushing revenue, but forgetting to push the bottom line.
Yes.
So then, and he told me, let me also tell you something. That big client you have, you need to diversify your products. There's a problem in the market. So I was like, oh my God, is this something you've had? He said, it's not looking very good. It's a bit unstable. Let me tell you, I did not work again. I went and I used to just visit that supermarket every day and say, pay me. And your terms have changed.
Yeah.
And, so many things.
Yeah.
And within about 3 weeks, I managed to get my money out. And it was a lot. Needless to say, within a couple of months, they had collapsed. They collapsed with a lot of people's money. So mine, they didn't collapse with a lot. Thank God for that gentleman.
Well, yes.
So he then proceeded to tell me, go put a board of directors together or advisors. I'll be your first member.
All this time, you didn't have a board of advisors?
No. See, I think I know what I'm doing.
All founders.
Of course, I'm making money. I'm growing.
You're like, I don't need nobody.
I don't need nobody.
Yeah.
So the first time they came in, first board meeting was, is this business in this state because the industry runs like this? Or is it the confusion of the CEO? It's like, whoa. Even for them to have the guts to talk to me like that. It's like, what? I asked you to help me. And they said, yes, but we're going to give you the brutal truth. But I like truth. I prefer it to anything. And so slowly we started now professionalizing the business, building systems, making things predictable, hiring different, bringing in specialists that I'd never thought about, like HR specialists, HR. I thought I could do it myself. Let me tell you an interesting story. I could hire, but I could never fire. So what would happen I would just then say, this person is not pulling their weight. So you do the whole conversation. And then eventually my mother, who was my silent partner, would come and say, okay, what do you want? I said, that person's just got to go. I've talked to them. I've done what I can. And I just think they need to go. So she would come and fire them. And then I won't come to work for 3 days, just in case I meet that person. So when I'm telling you blood, sweat, tears, whoa, it's all there. So slowly we formalized the business. And that's why, like I say, I have a huge passion for coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs. Because I say, let's talk about scaling your business. Let's not big. I think a lot of founders know what to do. They know how to chase the business. But now they don't even, it's the scaling of it, bringing in systems, bringing in processes, bringing in the right skill set at the right time, etc. That helps them then make it bigger.
Okay. Now, because a lot of, most of this conversation is said to be had by the younger generation and Gen Zs as they are building their business mindset and their entrepreneurship. Now, if someone were to give you $1 million, which relatively right now 1 million is not a lot if you're in the business world, and told you to build a business for the Gen Z market in 2026, what industry would you enter that is not tea? Yeah. And which one would you actually avoid? Having now been through your own industry, would you still do tea or would you do something else?
Well, I think it totally depends. The first thing I tell any entrepreneur is begin with the market. So where's the market? So I would need to sit down and understand Gen Zs. What is out there that perhaps needs something. So if you ask me now, I would say the knowledge economy is growing very quickly. People are looking for knowledge. Yes, there's AI and everything, but how about, do they understand how to use the AI?
Yes.
You're an influencer in that whole industry. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of these studios like this, and I've just lately been thinking, maybe these resources could be more shared,
Yes.
as opposed to everybody having their
Yes.
corner room. And I would be like, maybe that's a service one can give.
Yes.
So that if I want to do a podcast, I don't have to invest in it. I just have to, slip in, book a time, and everything's done, plus editing, plus the other.
Yeah.
However, I do know you guys are a very DIY industry. I mean, DIY kind of people. So maybe developing an app that helps you, edit faster, better, or even collates everything together. So for me, I would have to understand where is the market?
Is the market at the moment?
Yeah, this is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs do, is they start a business because they're good at it. And then they don't understand what the market wants.
Okay.
And then you're busy trying to push this thing into
at something that is the market
whereas
doesn't
if you
want.
sort of just sat down, did focus groups and understood, based in your area. So I'll give you an example how I transitioned to, well, I haven't transitioned, but I coach and mentor on, entrepreneurs. I wrote my book. And that was, I just sat down and said, what is it that I have that I could, that is necessary? And then I sort of put it out there. But when you're putting it out there, you have to be clear who your market is.
Yes.
This is something I also find entrepreneurs, when you're trying to start a business, you're not clear. You just come and perfect your art and it's brilliant. And then now you go around trying to push. No. You should actually do a very what problem are you solving?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a problem that also you have to be passionate about. Yeah, I keep telling people you can't go and solve a problem that you're not passionate about, because after some time, that is going to die.
True.
So perhaps right now it would be maybe knowledge economy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What part of entrepreneurship would you say looks glamorous on media from the outside, but it actually deeply lonely?
The journey.
The
whole entrepreneurial journey.
Okay.
What looks glamorous is the 30 years, when you see the cars out there, when you hear this award and that award and the other, you're like, wow, how did this person do it? What you forget to see is the hours that person has put in, the risks they've made, the mistakes they've made, just the sheer grit you have to go through. Because entrepreneurship, in fact, I say it's character development 101. It is one of the toughest fields, but one of the most rewarding, because it builds you completely as a person. Because, in a business, you have to think of everything.
Yes.
The marketing, the look, the that. Yes, you can hire,
but your brain has to be around the entire thing.
Yes. So that for me is the one people don't think about. The other one they don't think about especially is failure. And for me, I say failure is just feedback. If I try to do something today and I fail, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it tomorrow. In fact, I'll do it quickly. In fact, at the office, one of our biggest statements is fail forward fast. Let's go.
Fail and move on.
Yes,
Get the feedback and
keep it moving. Keep it moving. So I think that's also something entrepreneurs don't do. So somebody will start a business, they're not great at it, and then they say, I'll never do it again. And then continue but now going back to start looking for a job again.
Yeah.
Whereas if you took what you had, and even as you feel like you're whatevering, get somebody who's done it before. Today, you guys have so much knowledge. There's no lack of knowledge at all. And then, have a coach or a mentor, somebody who holds you accountable. And then spend time in the ecosystem. Yeah. So if I wanted to enter your space of influencing and marketing, oh my days, I would now come and just sort of start milling around, joining WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
Because then you start, yeah. So what I tend to find is people come in ill-prepared with too many assumptions that now they don't go verifying. Because even for us, when we're starting a business, I mean, when I did the ginger tea, I looked at it and I said, I love tea. My mother and all her relatives love tea, and it was always my job to make it. So I knew those love tea. I liked my ginger. And when I did a little bit of research, remember us guys' research was to go to the university or to a library. There was no www. There was nothing like that. So I noticed ginger is a very popular ingredient in Kenya. Yeah, so looking at something like that then, so you decide, what, is it big enough to make money? And then now you go and try and put it in market. Now you can put it in market and fail, as in the way you did it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you quit. So resilience is one thing your Gen Z generation need to really build up. Yeah. And the easiest way to do it is just to take feedback as, failure
As
feedback.
feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in your journey as you've been building, what are some of the external challenges that you've faced? And by challenges, I mean, like, for example, have you ever faced a challenge of certain rooms because you're a woman, because you didn't have certain papers, because you didn't have certain amount of money? And how did you navigate those?
Well, let's just begin with the age I started business. The fact
Exactly.
that, and it was very clear, a girl does not start business. So that was the message from the home. And it was very interesting for me because they had never brought me up to imagine I'm a girl. It was very equal. If I made a bed, the boys made a bed. If I did breakfast, so that was pretty shocking for me.
So when it came to starting the business, you were like,
It's
okay.
like, what changed? Did something change overnight? And later on, about a year later, my father apologized and he said he was just worried. He was just worried that you're not doing the right thing. And of course, my greatest supporter. So for me, what was your question again? I forgot.
Oh, what are some of the challenges that you faced externally? Is it age, your gender, certain papers? You didn't have X amount of money to get into certain rooms when you were through your entrepreneurship journey?
Okay. So, like I said, age was a factor, and then it started right out of the door. When I went to the supermarket, you're being told, "Hey, what are you doing?" So there was definitely a bias of why should you be doing business, and do you even understand it?
Yeah.
Of course, lack of collateral. I didn't have collateral when I was
starting out.
Yeah. So what I did is I just got very good at talking, and I did all those loans, and I combined, and I took suppliers credit, and I bounced checks, and I just literally had to make it move.
Yeah.
So there is a statistic that says there is a gender bias when women apply for loans because a lot of the men are the ones who approve and everything, and it wasn't as cute as it is now.
Yes.
So I wouldn't really know if I didn't get the loans because of that. But fortunately, I had enough of what when I needed it.
Yes.
Or I made it work. Actually, that's a better way.
You made it work.
I just made it work.
Yeah.
The one area that I tended to feel that hit me one evening is we needed a marketing campaign quickly. It was heading towards Christmas. We knew we needed whatever. And at this time, I had asked my brother to join me. So we were brainstorming with him. And so I went home. And we said, by tomorrow, we have to crack this. We have to put out a marketing campaign, a big one. So he went out and met somebody. And by morning, he had an answer for me.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, women don't network like men. You go home because you have a second duty. You bring up the home. So those are small little nuances. By then? I got married 5 years after starting my business. Okay. Yes, by then I was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then from that day, I stopped working on a Saturday, unless I have to. And then now, everything is around the
marriages home. Are also some of, let's say, setbacks that women face when they're starting businesses or building companies. Because as you said, you had to stop working on a Saturday, but before you did.
Yeah. No, I didn't have to. My husband also works on a Saturday.
Okay.
It was just a choice I made.
Okay.
Yeah. No, actually, I made the choice when the kids came. Yeah, I made the choice when the kids came, but no. Yes, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it is important for your partner to understand what it takes.
Yes.
So either they're an entrepreneur or they give you the grace to be who you have to be. Because there are times you're going to have late night meetings. There are times they are going to have to pick up the shift, pick up the slack. And then you also need a very, very strong environment around you.
Yes.
So, mother, cousin, brother, and then your home. How you treat your house help, and so that they don't do that thing of, hey, January haturudi. That meme really made me laugh.
Unacho in the middle of the beginning of the year, kids have to go to school.
Yes.
You're getting back to work. I can imagine.
Yeah. So, so you need a very supportive environment and a very supportive partner, at least, to understand this is what I do. It's important to me. And I have a pastor friend, and she tells all the Gen Zs that the person you marry is the biggest decision
you'll ever make
in your life. Yeah, you've heard it before, right?
Yes, I have.
Yes, and I keep repeating it to all of them. And I think it's true, because even me, when I was dating, even before settling, you say, you have your own business. And I'm like, yeah, it's a small, I even now tried to play down
To
myself.
downsize yourself, but it wasn't that small thing.
No, it was small at the time, but I couldn't understand, why are they panicking? What's wrong? And I actually literally I found myself sometimes trying to downplay it. And those were the little alarms that were like, hey, don't go forward, don't go forward. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've sat in rooms with governments, other CEOs, leaders, banks, larger manufacturers than yourself. What uncomfortable truth about African businesses and their growth do people avoid talking about and actually implementing?
About African businesses?
African businesses and how they grew and how they should scale. Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What does it take for African businesses that other people don't talk about?
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I think African businesses, there are two ways of looking at it. All, entrepreneurs are, they're a dime a dozen. Something about our typical Africans is generational handover of wealth. It's a conversation that's typically not had. So you tend to find many brands we grew up with when we were younger are not there anymore. Businesses, banks, supermarket, whatever it is. So there's definitely a learning there for us to start understanding how to pass on generational wealth.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not generational, how to pass on a business.
Yes.
And in fact, you can see, just this morning, I was actually at a family wealth creator. They are coming and they're saying you have to diversify your wealth. You can't always put everything in one basket. And I think there was some model they explained. You definitely have to, if you're bringing in the family, bring them in on merit, have family charters, if it's a family business, sorry. But again, if it's just a generational business, you have to put in the right structures. But if I double back a little bit, I think one of the challenges also of African businesses is that they tend to be a little bit more relaxed on structure. So they hustle hard as opposed to building the structure, proper governance, proper policies, etc. And what this then does is it limits the scaling, of course, of the business. It tires the owner. And sometimes then, especially if it's a family business, handing over, then the children are like, I don't want that unstructured thing. But imagine if you could put in the structures earlier, and then now spend your time now trying to scale it, maybe take it global, take it regional, whatever, what you're trying to do. Of course, we cannot ignore financing of African businesses. I think they say for women alone, there's $1 trillion gap.
Difference
gap.
Between funding for men.
No, just a gap. Funding for women that is needed. Because remember, women have another challenge. We rarely own capital.
Okay.
So if it is a farm, it is owned by the husband or the father of the home you married into. You just toil the land. If it is in business, titles are usually owned more by men than women. Of course, these demographics are changing fast and furious.
Yes.
Especially somewhere here like Kenya. I'm seeing, I do something in the property, and I do know a lot of property now is being owned by women.
Yes.
Which is great, because then that collateral is what then they take to the bank and they're able to build their business.
Yes.
And so the financing is also a big challenge. And then the type of financing that is available, it's always typically collateral based, whereas you'd find in Western countries, they have a lot of, they have more liberty in the way they sort of borrow.
Yeah.
Infrastructure is something we cannot also ignore for African businesses. So for example, if I'm shipping my tea to Dubai, it is cheaper by sea, even by air, than I'm taking it to West Africa. Because we do not have an infrastructure. And that's why you've been hearing
Africa,
governments sitting down. The whole Africa Continental Free Trade is a great, great initiative, because you're talking about we're heading to 1.2 billion and we're going to be 2 point something very soon, by 20, I think 50 or 60. So definitely, if we start working on our infrastructure, do you know that becomes your market?
Yes.
Because currently, when you go to West Africa, the tea they take there is from Dubai, is Lipton's, or something foreign. When you get cocoa here, it's not necessarily initially from West Africa. So there's it's opened up a whole new plethora of market. And remember, we always tend to begin with the market. And that's another thing that challenges African businesses. When I'm doing business in Kenya, I'm selling to 55 million people. If I'm doing it on the region, then all of a sudden I'm selling to 1.2.
Yes.
But what is the ease of getting that product around? So these are the peculiar challenges that affect African businesses.
Yeah.
So inter-European trade sits at 65%. So they trade among each other at 65%. We trade 14%.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a huge gap. And that's why they succeed within themselves.
Yes, because so that if you have your product and you crack one, it's very easy to take it around Europe.
Okay.
So intra-Asia, whatever, is 45. So you can see how limited we are, and business is in the market. The bigger your market, the bigger the opportunity.
Yes.
So of course we've seen things like tech, which is going to help us leapfrog.
Yes.
Moving money, moving people.
Yes.
etc. But it's a much bigger conversation we need to have, because the minute we start bringing in that, then we start pulling up barriers again, like of visas. Yeah, I've seen it's difficult.
Oh yeah,
movement of people.
Yes,
movement of money. As much as I'm trading with Nigeria, we want to do it in dollars. Whereas perhaps
can we trade in our own
can
local
we trade
currency?
in our own? So it's a long conversation that we need to have. But I'm glad the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement has begun. Conversations are being had, and definitely Africa is listening. It's nowhere where we were previously.
True.
We just need to find ways to move it faster.
Okay.
So these are the kind of things we would do. We spent a lot of time doing when I was at CAM and KEPSA. Yeah, just trying to give the business people's point of view so that they can improve the enabling environment.
And now that you've brought in the aspect of CAM and KEPSA, like from the intro, you became the first female chair of both of them.
Yeah.
Now, these were rooms that were predominantly dominated by men.
Yes.
Before you
with
came.
Huge businesses.
Yes.
I was the smallest business in the room.
What did you learn about power that most women were never taught?
Wow. That most women were never taught. I think it's that thing where we are taught to be seen and not heard.
Okay.
So remember I told you
what's the difference?
Yeah, I was brought up in a very equal home. So my voice was respected like anybody else's. But we tend to tell women, the minute you're too bold or too aggressive, then that's not the way you should carry yourself.
Yes.
And I tell women you should carry your voice should be heard, and when they're making decisions, make sure you're in the room.
Yes.
The one thing I learned there is the decisions are never made in the room. The meetings are usually before in the corridors. So who and how are they being made? So you make that your business.
Okay.
Yes. So let's assume we're planning something with you and say, let's have a meeting. If I came out and just found out how decisions are made around here, what goes on, etc., it really helps you. It helps just being heard.
Okay.
Who will support you. We call them sponsors in a good way. You have other people on the board who believe in you. You can run ideas through relationships. Yes. And even when you get it wrong, you positively support each other. So it's you just learn to. I think it's a lot of emotional intelligence. Learn to take feedback when you don't get things right. Correct it and move on, as opposed to wearing it like, oh my goodness, I did the wrong thing. But just realizing, usually by the time somebody has asked you to take a position, you deserve it.
True.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Your
and
work
it's not
has
about
spoken
having
for
to
itself.
keep fighting. But your level of preparedness has also got to be there. And I keep saying, be as prepared as you possibly can. Yeah.
Now, I mean, being in CAM and KEPSA rooms, and also yourself as founder and CEO of Melvis, are there moments that you had to be harder or tougher than you naturally are?
No, actually, it's the opposite.
Really?
There are moments where I had to calm down.
You had to calm down, you had to reduce you. So you're like, okay, it's not that serious. So you're naturally a tough person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess when you start at my age and you have to fight for your money, you have to fight for your position, you have to fight to be in the supermarket. You really learn just say it as it is. I suffer from, I call it foot and mouth. I just say things as they are. So I've actually had to learn to be more
softer
and more encouraging. And if I don't like something that won't work. And poor the designer is probably worked on it the whole afternoon. No. Who did that? What? So I do have a lot of Gen Z young friends, my kids and their friends who say, hey, don't say it like that. Be more encouraging. So now I've become pretty good at it, I think.
But so how has the balance been, and what has helped more building the business?
In terms of?
The toughness or the softness, what has helped more?
Okay.
What
I
have
think
you
initially
seen?
You're tough because you're trying, you're the one doing it.
Yes.
But the minute you start building a team, now it's getting the team to do it for you. So, trying to rally the vision with them, trying to make them believe in the product, because they're the ones who are doing more of the work.
Yes.
So I would say that has been that obviously works better because it's not me doing it.
Yes.
I actually did take myself. Remember, I told you must grow yourself all the time. To lead is to learn. You have, as a leader, the minute you stop learning, you stop being a leader. So I actually went and did an executive coaching course.
Okay.
And what coaching does, remember, it doesn't give you the answers. It makes you come out with the answers.
Okay.
So it helped me slow down and start bringing out the better part of people.
Okay.
But again, sometimes when I'm in a hurry and I want to do things, I forget all the nice things I was taught.
Yeah.
And I go back to bad habits.
Out of this coaching course, I'm assuming that's how you ended up becoming a mentor and writing your book.
Yes.
Now, you mentor very many other entrepreneurs at the moment.
Yes.
What mindset pattern would you say keeps talented women stuck while in actual sense they are very brilliant?
Our personalities.
Okay.
Women are nurturers. Women want to be sure. We tend to be risk averse. So it's that thing, I want to start my business, but I'm not sure. So let me go and get another certification. Let me go and learn, go back to school. Yet the market is not waiting for you. So what I tell people is learn to start with a minimum viable product. If you get a sort of a market, let's say you're going into a coaching business.
Yeah.
And I get a student. Of course, you have to have the certification. So I get a student. I will just say, I'll coach you for free as I'm building my confidence.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're starting a business, do a quick mock-up. Let's say I want to do, I find a lot of them doing these hair products and stuff. Do a quick mock-up and take it and give it to people for free. Let them try it. Let them give you real feedback and then take that feedback in. And that's where I tend to find a lot of people... and then again, you don't do it forever.
True.
So just to learn that, just be confident. I think confidence is one thing that I tend to find we women struggle with. And sometimes I call it think like a man. So when I have to make a decision, I put the decision there and then I say, think like a man.
Think like what would a man do in this situation?
What would a man do? Usually, you know what they do? They jump even if they're not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes I say, okay, let me jump. But then I need a parachute. So then I quickly try and figure it out.
Yes.
But in principle, that's why I also then wrote the book to actually say, if you think through these 10 principles, one is purpose. Why are you doing what you do? Because if you don't connect with it, let me tell you, within 1 year of struggle, you'd have closed up and said, this is not for me. The other thing then I tell them is, of course, get your governance right, get your documents right, right off the bat, that's also important. And then now we come in and we look at your money. How are you planning to make money?
Yeah.
Because the other thing about women is we tend to be a little bit apologetic about it. From our good mothering nature. Oh, you can't afford that. Oh, okay. Let me give you a discount. No, other people don't do that. Try and do a discount with Amazon. The price is there, it's finished. Let's move. And sometimes if you find you're not good at that, then put a price and just become Mutahi. You're not available.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things I say that I tend to find women suffer from.
Okay.
And I do actually have men in my class, believe it or not, but I do then encourage the women a lot. Just do it. Okay. And when you fail forward, fail fast. Don't wear it as an attack on your personality. Yeah. You are brilliant. I think we've really been taught to second guess ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
And which perhaps comes from just culture and also our school system. Yeah,
Okay.
we're not taught to push back and to challenge. And yeah, and it's the same school system I went through, but for me, I learned a long time ago to push back, challenge systems.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as a mother and a founder, did you ever struggle with guilt? And this is because maybe you're feeling like you are underperforming somewhere, either as a mom or as a founder, trying to balance. Now that brings in the question of work-life balance, especially when you are starting and Melvin International was still growing and still young, but you still had to balance out. You want a family, you want your marriage to work, you want your kids to grow with their mom present, while you still want the business to grow. Did you ever struggle with guilt of maybe one side is not doing well, and on how hard maybe you might have worked to the point you weren't present as a mom?
I would like to see a mom who answers differently, constantly. Guilt is something we wear on our sleeve right here all the time. When an exam comes and you see, oh gosh, they didn't do well, you'll ask yourself, did I remind them to revise in the evening? What if I had picked this up? What if? And of course, it challenges a lot of us when we go and see, those stay-at-home moms who have the calendar of the child, etc, and you're like, oh my days.
They have the whole life of their kids on the palm of their hands.
You know, and here you are basically saying, let's buy tea and let's sell tea. So you learn to equip yourself. You learn to equip yourself differently. So like for me, when the school calendar comes out, I sort of try and punch it in my phone.
Okay.
And then I belong to as many school ecosystems as I can, so that when I forget, another mother is reminding me, hey, we're picking subjects, hey, and obviously maybe your child hasn't told you.
Yeah.
So definitely, like I say, women, we have two jobs. You run your business in the office and then you come home and you're running home.
Yes, you're running home.
So the thing to do is to try and make it as seamless and as peaceful as possible. And that's typically to be done by just getting the right team, motivating them in the right way. You're leaving them with the most precious person in your life, so treat them well as well. So those are the little nuggets I tell people, but doable. And then also to respect your husband, yes, but also realize he's a father. So sometimes if he takes a child and the child hasn't eaten, it's okay. The child will die. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
He's the father either way, so it's okay.
He's the father. If things don't go particularly well when he's with him, don't do this thing I see mothers taking over and I'm never going to leave my child. The child will not die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's a fast.
Yeah.
And
also encouraging the an equal balance between because I believe children need both sexes when they're growing up. So even if it's not a father, a brother, an uncle, a cousin, I think it helps the child become very balanced.
Okay. Now, with the legacy that you've created, what part of it was influenced by having kids? Very many mothers who have legacies sit down and they're like, the moment they had kids is when now their career became purposeful and they're like, okay, now I have a legacy to create and leave behind.
Yeah.
Was that also part of your story?
No. I think for me, because I started my business before I was married and I had something to prove. Now now my biggest challenge and my next thing I want to crack is this succession planning. Not necessarily saying my kids would take over, I don't know if they're interested, but really then how does this business continue without me?
Yes. So
that's a conversation I've begun going to those kind of rooms. I was in one today, I'll be in another one tomorrow.
Okay.
Next week. So that's the conversation now I've started to have. And then even for them, just challenging them. What are you thinking? What do you want to do with your career?
Yeah.
And, I keep challenging them. Is anybody interested? And, as much as right now they're all saying they're not.
Really?
Yeah.
No one, you don't have that one child who's always like, I want to take over mom's business?
No.
No. Okay.
But of course, it's also a reflection on what have they seen? Have they seen a well-structured, well-run, And so it's a great challenge because then you start practicing what you preach.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not saying I've cracked this succession, whatever. It's just something I'm very, very aware of. And it's a journey that I've decided I need to begin taking. And I'm starting. I've started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever struggle with having it all that very many women struggle with? work, a husband, children, a social life, friends, investing, traveling, your own personal space. Have you ever struggled with trying to find a balance between that?
Yeah, and I say there's no balance. I call it harmony.
Okay.
So you get into spaces where, like for example, when I decided what am I gonna do? I'm starting to get bored of Melvin's. I said, okay, 2 conversations. One, the whole how am I going to, pass it on? 2, let me like jot down my knowledge. Let me start doing something for me that I enjoy. And incidentally, when I went on this journey, I've become a better boss because what I penned here has also made me more aware of what people don't understand maybe. So I try to make intrapreneurs of my staff.
Yeah.
And the second one is in the scale mastery, because I'm teaching it all the time. So sometimes I catch myself, oops, I taught this on Tuesday. What happened here? And so I'm able to bring that to the business.
Okay.
So down to what is my legacy? My legacy is around that I want to pass on entrepreneurial knowledge for us to scale.
Okay.
22% of all entrepreneurs are on this continent. So basically we have the continent with the most
With the
entrepreneurs.
largest entrepreneurs in the world, yes.
However, they're all small. They tend to be small. And that's when I decided there's a lot of incubators, there's a lot of startup businesses, and that's what I wrote the book about. I said, if you're a startup, if you want to know the principles I believe in, I put out the book. So, but then I went to the next level, which is I call them growth-led businesses. So they're already making money, but now you challenge them to go to formalize, to make it bigger, to scale their businesses. Yeah, so that's the niche I've sort of carved out for myself, and it's fun. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, since this episode will be airing as we are phasing out the month of Mother's Day,
Yeah.
just one question to close that chapter. What has motherhood taught you about leadership and yourself that no boardroom that you ever walked in did?
I think to be more gentle with people. Yeah. Because you see your child, when you do something, they give you instant feedback. Whereas in the office, more you're a boss.
Yeah.
So they'll say, yeah, you're tough and everything. But just to be more gentle with people and to see them as human beings. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's circle back a little bit to Melvis.
Melvin's.
Now, yes, Melvin's.
Yeah.
And the question is, you entered flavored tea before the market fully understood it.
Yeah.
How do you personally distinguish between a bad idea and an idea that the market is just not ready for?
Trial, a lot of trial, a lot of research, a lot of feedback, and then be also ready, if you can afford it, to put it out there and then call it if it doesn't work.
Okay.
So, for example, I had a friend who told me she had gone to, was it Malaysia, and there are these herbs, great herbs that are doing so well, and why don't I package them? And we got on a call, and she sent me samples, and I started believing this whole story.
Oh.
And then at some point I said, but we have so many herbs in Kenya. You know, the muarbaini, the what. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. So I took Melvin's packaging and I put it and we put it on the shelves. And you know what? It didn't do well.
Okay.
You know why? When we did our research, people were used to getting them in a sachet when they go to Shags or from somebody else. So buying it formally in a tea bag was
not
too foreign.
Making sense.
Was way too foreign. Today, I think it's different. This was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Today, I believe it would be different. So sometimes it's to put it out there, but keep collecting feedback. So when we did that research, is when we realized that, this is not going to work. Yeah.
Now, and it's good you've spoken about that aspect of failure, which to you was feedback from the market. A lot of people expect entrepreneurs and successful people to always look like they know what they're doing. And in that instance, you didn't know. But could you shed some light on an instance where you made a very expensive mistake?
Oh, yeah. I have a brilliant idea. A brilliant example. So you remember, going back, I had a plain tea and I had the ginger tea.
Yes.
So the ginger tea picked up, the plain tea didn't. And the packaging looked almost the same as this, but it was written ginger premium tea. So instead of tangawizi there, it was written Melvin's ginger tea. But the packaging was more or less the same. I had gone with this orange color, but that one was yellow and green.
Okay.
It didn't go anywhere. So after about a year, we just said, this is not working. So we wrote off that packaging. Then I said, maybe because it didn't have a Kenyan name. We did a little bit of research, but we couldn't afford researchers because research were thousands of shillings. So we said maybe we needed to give it a Kenyan name. So we developed one, we called it Melvin's Taifa Tea.
Okay.
So I went back to my market and I put it out in the market and it started moving, but not at any speed to make any sense. So I said, oops, hasn't worked again. And the reason I needed to be in the black tea market is because the flavored tea market, remember, we're the ones who created it.
Yes.
So it was a very small niche market.
Yeah,
so I
niche
said,
market.
if I get into this, 90% of this market, I'll be rich quickly. You know, it's good to dream.
Yes.
So that one failed again. So then I said, we did another research. This one we even paid for. So they said, tea is taken by family. So we called it all family tea.
What?
Failed again. This is now, we are talking a period of 10 years.
But this is the same exact product. You're just finding a name for it.
Yes.
Okay.
A name and how do we market and you do a lot of
and
tasting. And remember, it has no differentiation.
Yes.
People are always saying, no, we know you as the Tangawizi people. So then...
Tangawizi people.
Yeah, so you see those are already 4 names. Premium, Taifa, all family. Oh, then at the time, Mumias were putting vitamin A in sugar.
Okay.
So I said, I'll put vitamin B in tea. So I came out with Chayafia.
Wow. Hey, you really tried. Oh my God, this must have been a very interesting decade.
Oh, completely. So it went in the market and guys were like, yeah.
Went nowhere.
So I decided this one we are cracking. I think it was just before COVID. Yeah, so maybe 10 years ago. I said, this one we are cracking. So I went and got another designer and he was there doing the brand and I gave it to my sales team. And they sat with it and they said, no. Then one person just said, listen, take exactly, see how the tangawizi looks exactly like the masala? So they said, so put another one here that looks the same. So we just called it Melvin's Kenyan tea, Melvin's Kenyan chai. And then it's yellow and green. Do you know when we took it to the supermarkets, they even said, where did this product go? We listed in the supermarkets in November. You never list in November. Because listing is a big thing. They have to sit down. They were like, where did this product go? Because it felt familiar. Because it actually mirrored this. So it joined the family.
Yes.
Finally.
End products were going.
Yeah. So you asked me biggest mistake, count that for 10, 15 years. Packaging, market research.
Listing, removing from shelf,
having to pay, give credit notes. My goodness, it was a lesson of, just don't give up. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit of backstory around the tea bags and the chai. How that has been and how even the team works around it and how your market responds to it.
When we started 30 years ago, Kenyans were very, they like boiling their tea. So loose tea was...
Don't we still boiling our tea?
No. So loose tea was everything.
Yes.
So actually when I started, I didn't even have a tea bag machine, thank God. I didn't have the money anyway to buy it. But, I was able to go to market with just loose tea.
Yes.
But slowly over time, then I managed to get a second-hand machine somewhere. And we went and bought it. That's when I started I just gave them 9 checks. Because it was sitting in their store anyway. I gave them 9 checks and I walked out with my machine and I started doing tea bags. So even today, the Kenyan market is still more, maybe it's a 60-40, but tea bags are definitely picking up. As opposed to the first world where tea bags are like
everything that people use,
99% of the market. Here we are about a 60-40. So we still like brewing our tea and everything, but tea bags. There was a notion, I remember when we were young, that people would say, Kenyans were saying, the tea bags are the dust on the floor. Because you do use a little bit of tea bag, it's called fannings and some dust because it improves the quality of the cup.
Yes.
So now Kenyans, I think somebody must have picked that story, and that's the story that was going around. So tea bags are bad, but no, you can get a beautiful cup of tea with a tea bag.
Can.
Yeah.
Now, when you are in your 30s, and of course that's when Melvin's is really picking up, the market is accepting the product. What belief about business did you have that right now you completely don't even trust?
Whoa, that's a tough one. What belief did I have then?
About business that right now you would not even advise someone?
It's actually what I teach.
Okay.
That hard work, pushing, hustling is what makes you the money. No,
it's not.
It's not what makes you the money. It's the systems, the structures, the processes.
Okay.
Yeah. So come up with the idea, and then now how much can you formalize? Can you formalize so that it can work without you? Yeah. So I put in many, many, many hours. In fact, my team used to laugh. They used to say, "What time did you send that email, by the way?" They could read 1 a.m.
I am a victim of sending emails at 3 a.m. and my team is like, okay, what time did you sleep?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And another mistake I tend to find entrepreneurs making is imagining you grow a big business by doing one-to-one. Consumer to consumer. You selling whatever you're selling one-to-one.
Yeah.
You've got to find out how people buy. So if you're selling like if we're selling tea, it is one to many. I mean, I'll go to a B2B. So I sell through distributors, I sell through supermarkets, I sell through. Actually, those are the only places I sell through. Because if I did one-to-one, when will I ever make money? So you tend to find entrepreneurs not going to those aggregators or thinking who really can cut me a good check, and then working backwards. Okay. So it's like you guys and influencers. If I started a business to manage them, I would perhaps not just go to anybody. I would probably go to the agencies and the bigger brands and say, hey, I have a platform. You can pick the one you want. Yeah. So it's really looking at the pockets where you're trying to, where you'd cut yourself a bigger check. Okay. Automation is another big one. Okay. In fact, I call it autonomy. Okay. Autonomy is getting the business off your back. So what system can you put in place? So for example, if I'm the one who does all the entrepreneurs do this, they're brilliant. They've learned how to do a lot of social media. So yes, I post, but I'm getting so exhausted. Why are you the one posting? Get out of your head, write it. What you do, how do you think, how do you prompt, how do you whatever.
Then let
somebody else do it. Yes. Something as simple as that. So you tend to find they're spending their time there. Where should they be spending the time? With the consumer, with the market. In trying to get a bigger somebody else to cut them a bigger check.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Selling to corporate, selling to bigger people. Yeah.
Now, being in business for over 3 decades, what version of yourself do you think you've outgrown between when you were starting and now?
The hustle stage. Yeah.
You really believe in systems and structure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The hustle stage is not for me anymore. I have no patience. I can't put it together.
But I mean, you've outgrown it. Even with your age, you don't have that time to still have to kimbizana the.
Yeah, and that's so that's what you're asking me. And the way I explain it to my students is really, I say, usually you're the business. When you start a business, you're the business.
You're the brand.
You're the brand. You're the everything. You're the one even who makes tea, maybe. Slowly, you need to get out of that and become the architect of the business. Okay. So an architect, what do? They build the vision, the pictures, the windows, they imagine everything. And you can be an interior and exterior architect. What color is this going to be? And then now you get people to bring that to life. Okay. So I'm pushing entrepreneurs to become architects of their business. Okay. So it's not about how many hours you put in. It's how well you've defined the system. Yes. So if we take a system like yours, yes, you do a podcast and there's editing. You don't need to be there to do it. If you've gotten out of your head and these are the standards and this is what you have to follow, and then maybe you can have a QC person checking it. From sitting here, you can walk out and go to New York and do your next big thing. Yeah. But we tend to we stay too much in our businesses as opposed to getting out and becoming an architect of the business. How do you buy? How do you supply? How do you attract customers? Okay. Document it. Okay. And then get other people to run with it. Or systems with the now AI, my goodness. I can't wait. I want to learn how to do that agent so that it takes over. I've done a bit, but I need to do more. so that whatever. And then to learn.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, guys, you need to be learning. And today, there's so many easy ways to learn, like TikTok.
Yeah, true. TikTok is teaching all of us.
Yeah, you know. So there's no excuse really for not being able to be an architect of the business. And that's what I did. The two days I didn't used to go to work. That's what I would do, is sit down and be an architect. What do I want this to look like? How do I want it to behave? How do I want
Okay. What would you say was one major decision that you made that really changed the trajectory of Melvin's?
Wow. I think when I brought in the board, because they helped me stop second-guessing myself. And then they brought me a lot of professionalism. Remember, I had never done corporate. So other than what I read in the books, then people say, no, we don't do it like that. We do it like that. And, I had the fortune of 2 or 3 of them were in between jobs. And I just asked them, what would it take for you to come and sit with me 3 times a week, literally in the business? And they helped me really structure, improve the business, if it's, working out incentives, etc. So I learned a lot, hands-on.
Okay.
Yeah, from people that I could perhaps not have afforded as consultants.
Okay. That's interesting to know. Now, circling back to being a Kenyan-made brand, there's usually a psychological... what's the word? How people view made in Kenya or made in Africa brands. What would you say African founders still need in order to command that global attention of a made in Kenya or made in Africa brand?
Own the space. Own the space. We discredit ourselves pretty quickly. So that when I make something, why can't I take it straight away to New York or to wherever? Would it stand the test? Would it stand up? The other thing, first, before we actually own the space, is removing our level of mediocrity. I'm sorry to say, I find a lot of entrepreneurs being kind of mediocre and then wanting you to buy because you've said it's made in Kenya. I actually don't. Yes, I want to support Kenya, but I'm not going to support Kenya at the detriment of what I want it to do. So let's assume I bought something to grow my hair. It needs to stand up to international standards, international packaging, international look and feel, so that when I'm really making a decision, I'm not having to compromise because it's made in Kenya.
Yes.
And with I've watched the Kenya open up, in terms of our imports, which is unfortunate. We import a lot of packaging and a lot of stuff. So today it's pretty easy to come out with a product that can sit on an international shelf and people won't even know. In fact, these days, half the time I go to read the back and first it's hard to read, but I try to read the back and say, is it made in Kenya or not? So we've really, really, looking at when I started and now, we've really made inroads in terms of our packaging, our look and feel. Yeah. But my message to entrepreneurs is get yourself to a good level of excellence. Actually learn to chase excellence.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a problem we have. And then they want you to forgive them because they are Kenyan.
Okay. Now, I think we have come to the closure of most of our questions. So the remaining ones are just like rapid fire.
Okay.
To just quickly see where your head is at on certain things.
Okay.
What's one new thing that you've brought in or you are doing in Melvin's that is helping? Something that maybe wasn't your idea, maybe was a Gen Z idea that came about and you just implemented it and you're running with it with the team.
Oh, yeah. During COVID, you guys all went home. So we traced you at home and we really turned up our socials. And of course, that was the best investment we made because now we do it internally. And we go out to agencies for ideas and whatever. So that's something that has really been a lot of fun. It was a lot of learning.
Okay.
But the other thing that we did is we came out with, when you guys started going to work, we people were like, oh no, the staff is still very limited. So we got a vending machine. So a tea vending machine.
You have those?
Yes, we do. Yes,
Which Kenya do I live in? Wow. Where are they stationed?
Well, you just, it's on rental and then you buy the products from us.
That is nice.
That forced us to come out with first time Kenyan instant tea, I mean, we used the Kenyan instant tea that we have and then we flavored it. So we have tangawizi, we have cardamom, and we've got masala.
Oh, wow.
And we're even doing tea and chocolate. We've got chocolate in it and everything. So that product, people started saying, where can I get it? So we actually have tea sticks. We should have brought some sticks where it has milk, sugar, and tea.
Oh, so you just put it in water,
yeah,
hot water, and that's it.
Yeah. So
That's
when you're
nice.
traveling, like for me, when I travel, that's all I carry. When I'm going to the bush, like to watch the rally, all I say is, "Do you have boiling water?"
And
I have
you're
my
good
cup.
to
Yeah.
go.
So it has tea, sugar, and whatever. So it was. And even sampling it and everything, I used the Gen Zs to sort of say, what do you like? And I sent it to all my two nephews and nieces, and they said, Auntie Flo, this is a good product.
Awesome.
So again, we are back to educating the market again. You know, this is Kenyan, this is out there. So we tend to find ourselves always constantly in that space of, you know, coming out with innovation and then having to educate the market.
Okay.
But it's a challenge I think we enjoy, and, you know, we're moving.
Okay. Now, one question that every entrepreneur should ask before taking a loan. You having a finance background, I think you'd be good
Number
to
one, what is the interest rate? Are there any extra charges? Like, because usually they'll give you interest rate, then they say a drawdown, we're going to give you 5% or 3%. A drawdown, what is the annual fee for that loan? If I pay it back any faster, can I pay it back without a penalty?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's some they say, no, you can't. We've calculated the interest, so it all has to come. So those are the kind of things that is very, very important. But also run your, how much money do you need in the business? The biggest mistake I'm tending to find entrepreneurs doing right now is there's a lot of VC money that has been coming around, venture capitalists.
A lot.
Yes.
Oh my God. They're pouring.
Yeah and no. How many people have you found who has actually received it?
I know a couple of few.
Yeah, What word did you use? Few.
Okay, true. Few.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes.
So I tend to find a lot of entrepreneurs out there saying, I want to start a cafe, I'm looking for an investor. And when you question them, what kind of an investor, they're looking at those kind of investors, and I'm like, they don't do typically cafes.
They don't.
So
they do big things.
Big things,
Yes.
or things that they are set up for. So for example, there's some who give women, because they want to see women, they want to see social impact, they want to whatever. So if you're out there and you have an idea that is you want funded, first find out who would fund it, even before you spend. I mean, you there will be 2-3 years out there saying, I'm looking for money to an investor to start a business. But a typical business, a manufacturing or whatever, it's not that easy to go out there and find somebody who will invest. Not to say that there is grant money, but usually for capacity building and everything.
Yeah.
So my message to entrepreneurs is first understand the ecosystem. As much as you're saying, I'm looking for an investor. I want to start a salon. I'm looking for an investor. I want, are they really there? And friends, they call it friends, families, and fools are the ones who give you money. Look for those. It's a statement. It's not from me.
Wow. Okay,
Look
friends,
family, and fools. When you want
okay.
to do a business that is pretty regular.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to go and build tech, now you can go but also find out, what do those VCs want? What are their parameters before you spend a lot of time going around and wasting your own time. So invest if you really believe in your product. I mean, I did it. It was, friend. I did borrow from friends, families,
and fools.
Yes, I did. Yes. So as a startup, start small, and the cheapest source of funding.
Which is family.
No, it's your customer.
Reinvesting the money of the customer back into the business.
So if I want to do hair stuff, go do it quickly, sell, put that money back and in the business, because then you're building your working capital quickly. You're not waiting for this big whatever
money.
But today, to be fair, there are many sources of fund, even getting an unsecured loan. I mean, I went to my SACCO and I put money in my business, which typically is whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can go and get an unsecured loan if you really believe in your product.
Okay.
But then be very careful. Put it as close to the consumer as possible. So I'm buying packaging so I can sell to you so that you can pay me.
It comes back and it pays it back.
I'm borrowing to go and do a feasibility study. That will take a long time. So it's really understanding, and there's a lot of learning, a lot of knowledge out there today. So I keep telling entrepreneurs today, get a mentor or somebody to hold you accountable, but the knowledge is out there.
Okay. Now, 30 years from now, when African entrepreneurship is being discussed globally, what do you hope people to say about Flora Mutahi?
That she dared to dream, and Melvin's is on global shelves.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've spent decades building systems, brands, and institutions. But when all titles are removed, who is Flora Mutahi when there's no audience, no boardroom, no applause, no awards?
A T-girl.
Okay.
I'm known as the T-girl.
The T-girl.
So just that person who wants to make a difference in the world, however small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, every guest at Inspire answers one question before they leave, which is, what inspired you or what still inspires you?
Growth, to build, to see. I'm a creative. I like putting things together and seeing. Yeah, those are my best moments. In fact, somebody asked me what's been the best, and I said, I get many little ones. Every time I set up a system, it works. I'm like, wow. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Bringing things to life. I love it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right then. Thanks, Sean.
Awesome.
It's been great.
It has.
Lots of fun.
This was a very thought-provoking conversation. I think the crew was also immersed in it, right? Awesome. Thank you very much for coming.
All right.
Thank you, loves, and we'll see you on the next one.